I think there's an unquestioned assumption that after we die, we're automatically healed. But that isn't always what we see.
Welcome to Mediumship Sparks, where we connect more deeply with spirit and source and follow the sparks of insight and inspiration that bring us greater awareness, healing, and just more flow into our lives. I'm Noelle Dean, intuitive medium, licensed therapist, and your host. A quick note before we begin: this podcast is for educational purposes only and provides general information. It is not medical or psychological advice and is not a substitute for care from a licensed health professional. I'm so grateful we get to step into this.
In a recent episode, I sat down with a woman about a month after we did a reading to connect with her mom, where it was still very clear that her mom was not fully healed yet. And that really stayed with me. So today I'm sitting down with another medium and we're comparing notes about what we've actually observed when it comes to what happens after somebody's passing.
Juliana and I were just laughing at ourselves about memory issues. And I was saying how I was having a hard time recollecting the origin of how we met. And now it's starting to come back, and the conversation we had when we recorded our first podcast episode together. And Juliana was sharing how she stood in front of the microwave and realized she actually meant to go brush her teeth. Okay. So I got a visual of us playing ping pong. So we'll see if that is the theme of the going back and forth. Oh, yeah. This will be interesting for me because I'm used to facilitating. I'm supposed to do that right now.
Sounds good. We're going to play. Yeah. I'm just dropping into sitting with my own guides and feeling the presence of your guides or your team. There's a sweet kind of hello from over here.
I just got a visual and I could feel the emotion of, it's very strong, like an orchestra. Like together they make up an orchestra. It's really beautiful. Just the feeling of it is just so beautiful. They're commenting that you're just so sweet-natured. Yeah. And a loving, gentle person. But it's an honor to be matched up in this moment over Zoom with you. My grandmother is coming forward. So this is the one that I refer to as Mama. And she's my paternal grandmother, which I don't normally say, so I'm assuming that has some connection with you.
I had dreams about my paternal grandmother all night last night, so.
Awesome.
There we go. Which never happens. So clearly she is probably here in the room as well.
Beautiful. I don't mean to be distracting, but I feel like I should share that I have been a vegan for almost 2.5 years, and I had my first meat eating dream. I was eating chicken breast. And for some reason, I was able to justify eating it as if it was somehow part of my diet. And of any meat that I might miss the flavor of or the texture of, it's not chicken, just to be clear. And I was really eating it. I was going to town. So we'll see if that comes up about something. But okay, paternal grandmother. Thank you. So I have my alarm set to sometimes play Imagine Dragons' song Natural. Are you familiar with that song? 'Cause you're
I'm not sure if I am. Oh, okay. Yes, I have heard that.
And I actually listened to the words, and actually they don't mean it as a compliment in that case. Sometimes just the title is really the message. And so I got that about you, that you're a natural, about these, I hate to call them special gifts because I feel like everybody has them, but some of us are just more, I'm getting the term easily attuned, like playing the piano. Some people will have a much easier time and an aptitude for it than others, but we could all play. Yeah. Aw. Okay, and she's giving me a visual, so I believe this is your grandmother, giving me this visual, and you look to be like 4 or 5 years old, and your hair is long and a bit straighter than it is now. And she's, I don't know if it's her or she's just watching you spin or she's twirling you, but just this very gentle dance. You look like you're just having the best time. You're really present. You're feeling just on top of the world. And it's then you knew like this was going to be your world. Like you were really excited about it. And now they're playing the song and you're a natural. Yeah. And she's commenting about you being like a precious girl with a gift. And she's saying the gift is perception of special forces, energies. And she's showing you, I'm seeing you around like a place that Kind of reminds me of where I live. There's some mountains over there. It's not like really wooded, or I don't feel in the heart of nature. But if you were in this situation, if you were like here, you would be connecting with the mountains wherever they are. There are some that are 30 miles away, there's some that are a couple streets away, but that you would just be so tuned into it. It would be almost like she's showing the visual of there's no houses.
I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so I am here in the
Oh,
mountains. And I'm so fortunate that I live in a neighborhood that is very spacious. And so when you
okay.
we have houses, but they're not close together. And so when you walk down the street, so much of my happy place here really is walking down the street and just looking in every direction. There's mountains every single side of us. It is profound to be able to connect with this. This truly is
Mm,
the place that I know so deeply that I am meant to be.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like that was like a validation, but now I'm asking, is there like a message that she has? She's saying you're part of a larger circle of spiritual beings who have come here incarnated for a special purpose. And it feels a little like that grandmotherly, like I'm telling you
She
because I
was
want you to
stern. She
remember.
was not the fuzzy cookie baking grandma. She loved
Gotcha.
me fiercely. But it's
That's
funny,
cute.
my connection with her in these last few years, and she passed in the early 2000s, but my
Mm.
connection, it's really been in these past few years that all of a sudden it feels like in whatever process of growth and transmutation she has been going through, all of a sudden these days she's, oh, hi. Yeah, I'm here. All right.
I love that you're bringing that up. I wondered if other mediums pick up on the unhealedness. You're
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
you're experiencing your grandmother and like her evolution. Like now she's softer, is what you're, yeah.
Definitely. It's so clear in the work that I do. I do less mediumship, more no, I have some training in mediumship, but it's not like my strongest suit. I do a lot of work in hypnotherapy and shamanic journey work,
Mm,
all of these different spaces. And a lot of what comes up for me with my clients is healing those ancestral lineage patterns
mm,
that are passed down family to family, that we're carrying this burdensome backpack. And
mm.
one of the things that I see over and over, I'm curious if this resonates with your experience, is we get in there, we're doing the altered state work, we're working on that lineage line issue that they have taken on as a burden. And so often there's this misknowing of, I am doing this to take care of the family line. I'm doing this because holding on to this pain means that the other women in my lineage will be remembered and that their pain will be honored. And over, you get in there and you start checking in with guides, with ancestors, and what always comes back is just this resonant, profound, no, we want you to be free. If
Mm.
we didn't have the chance to be free, we want you to be free. And even as you're sharing about my grandmother, actually, one of the things that always has felt sort of tender when she passed. I was in graduate school. I was living in Budapest, Hungary. So I was not in the United States. I was not near her. I was not able to spend a lot of time in her final year of life. And the thing that there's conflict there of, even though we weren't super close, and there's a lot in that family line on both sides, really. Most families are complicated, let's be real. But the thing that always felt like on this gut level knowing was, you know what? She wanted to go, she got a full scholarship to go to college. And she started college. The Great Depression hit. Her parents yanked her out.
Oh.
And so she was probably a genius level IQ woman, incredibly talented, incredibly smart.
Mm.
And the trajectory that she ended up in, she lived a good life, she raised kids, she traveled, she learned. but the potential that she could have realized, she really never got that chance. And so there always was this sense of, oh, yeah, you know what? I may not be there, but I am living what would have been her dream to go live in another country, to study all kinds of interesting things, to have these experiences and the independence to really forge a life that I wanted. And in so many ways, it feels like that is actually the process of
Wow.
unentangling
Hmm.
from those old patterns that get passed down over and over of you have to sacrifice your dreams and your happiness for whatever, usually patriarchal or capitalist or prejudiced reasons.
I hear you that there's a big difference. It's like I'm going to take on rebalancing the karma versus I'm going to cut those ties so I don't
Yes.
have to live that kind of life. And what came through when you were describing that from your grandmother, this is how she said about her lost potentiality, that it was heartbreaking. And when you said about traveling and all those things, she was just like full circle. Yeah. Yeah. I love that for you. And for her, that she gets to like vicariously enjoy. Yeah. It feels like she experiences a bit like having it herself as she's vicariously watching and loving the environments you put yourself into.
There is something that's always so interesting in, yeah, this piece that I think a lot of us need to come to understand that so often some of those, the personality traits or the beliefs or the stuck places in life in the human realm, it might take time, it might take work. I remember a long time ago when I was doing some training as part of my shamanic training in some mediumship work. I was partnered with somebody and we connected with a roommate of mine who had passed.
Oh, wow.
And what she shared through this woman was basically, yeah, I'm in school now. I'm learning better how to love myself. I'm going through this new training. And there is this deep sense of just the possibility of we do not know what happens in the months, years, decades. I did some work recently actually with someone who had passed before I was born. And like the nature of time is different. The possibilities of how can we help may be just as fresh for somebody who passed in the 70s or 60s as they are for somebody who is just recently deceased. And it's something that, yeah, we have the opportunity to understand that transmutation can happen, that people can let go of old baggage, that they can get distilled once again more down to the essence of themselves. And that essence is usually much more wise, much more loving, much less stuck in certain attachments.
Absolutely. I have a lot to share in some of the episodes I've started doing in this season of my podcast about my relationship with my sister,
Mm.
which was not great. And we hadn't spoken for a decade before she passed. And she's just starting to show up more and more. Like at first, I don't know if you've had this experience. When she first passed, one of my grandma, actually, Mama, this grandmother, showed up with her.
Mm.
And I was like, what's happening? Because it was weird to see Mama, because I don't normally, and then also to see my sister. And she had just passed a few days earlier, my sister.
Wow.
And Mama told me that she was a supervisor. And I've noticed at other times, and maybe because of I'm a therapist, and so I have space for mental health stuff, there are other, mainly mothers, that I've connected with in a reading that have a supervisor, like their best friend is with them or somebody else is with them. Our relationship is very different now. We've made a lot of amends with each other.
Mm.
And it just came to me as I was having this debriefing. This was just a few days ago that my sister came to be the supervisor for this mother who was not well at all and could get really nasty and even got nasty with me. And then even when I was doing the debrief conversation, I had a sense of my sister holding her arms around us in this space to be that protector. So from somebody who might have had some, she said she had a personality disorder, but she had some stuff
Yeah.
going on. And my impression now is that she quickly worked through that because she wanted to be a part of what I
Yeah.
do. And how cool is that?
So beautiful. I have some clients who really struggle with the fear of mortality. And one of the things that I often encourage them to do is actually read the books on near-death experiences.
Good
Because
idea.
my
Yeah.
goodness, there's one book called After, and they are by and large so reassuring, so uplifting. I think if you get steeped in some of this, truly over time, the fear of death dissolves. It's hard to lose the fear of and the sadness around losing the people we love, the life we have, all of that. There is something so powerful in seeing, and one of the tropes that you see over and over in experiences from people who've had these near-death experiences is that there is so often someone,
Mm.
friend, relative, pet, being that maybe they don't even know, who comes and says, "Okay, hey buddy, I'm here to help you. Come on. We're gonna do this together. I'm just here to be your escort and your guide." Something about that feels so reassuring that there is and when I think about it, I actually part of what comes up is the sense of, my God, who are we to be so arrogant that we would think that community stops at death?
Wow.
Like,
Now that's a quote.
community is transcendent. So it
Mm.
really, yeah,
Hmm.
there's really something there that feels really important.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's a whole mystique around quote death. I have a friend from high school who reached out the other day to let me know that another woman that we went to high school with had just passed away. And I could feel that, oh my God, kind of feeling from her. Let me
Yeah.
let go of that energy. And I was like, oh, like I had no idea. I hadn't heard it, is what I mean. And I didn't
Mhm.
really know that woman. This friend is, I don't know if she's atheist or agnostic, but clearly she's terrified. And so I
Yeah.
tried to think of what could I say. So I texted back something like, yeah, I hear you. It's a reminder that death is looming. And to her, that's terrifying. And so I was thinking, and I was like, don't text her now because she's working. She's on the East Coast. But I think I probably want to text her. I'm going to recommend the book after. But I
Mhm.
almost wanted to be like, hey, I'll wait for you if I go before you. Like trying to say it's okay.
Yeah.
Even though we've made some connection with relatives who've passed of hers, I just feel for her because that sucks to be that fearful of something that truly is inevitable. I don't want to feel that way. I used to. I
Yeah.
can't now. I know too much. They're having a ball over there. I'm excited. I'm not anxious to get over
I'm
there.
not ready yet, but it does
Yeah,
not sound unappealing
at all.
especially, and I think this is the thing too, is if we are here in this lifetime and we are healing and we are caring for the people around us and we are doing good things, and I'm certainly not a heaven and hell person. That doesn't jive with the way that I experience the world. But the more present we can be here, the more present we can be to navigating whatever it is that comes next. Whether we're looking at that in terms of kind of Bardo states like in Tibetan Buddhism, and knowing that, okay, yeah, there may be a place to navigate that's confusing or disorienting at
Hmm.
some point, or whether we're expecting our best friend to be there waiting for us. It's so funny that we're having this conversation because all of this has been so much more active for me over the last year in ways that it hadn't really been
Hmm.
previously. So it's interesting that we cross paths when we do. But this knowing that, especially here and now, if we learn to do some of this work, if we learn to meditate, if we learn to shamanic journey, if we learn to navigate altered states in a way that is relatively trustworthy, confident, connected, that we can rise to just about any challenge. If we know how to navigate the unknowns and the wilderness of our own mind and heart, a lot of other things
Hmm.
are going to pale in comparison.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. If you can build this sense of, hey, I can navigate anything, then maybe with that self-confidence, you understand that you can deal with whatever situation. And I would also imagine that somebody with, let's say, control issues or really needing to understand like what's coming up, how the idea of passing would be just so
Yeah,
overwhelming because there is
absolutely.
no one account unless you follow a religion that's this is how it is. This is what's going to happen. Let us tell you. And that sense of confidence they would have about that. But if you hear different perspectives and then you're like, I don't even know what it's going to be like. I could imagine for some people that that would be really, they'd be, they'd have their pants scared off.
Of
Somebody else is
course.
saying that.
Yeah.
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 So much of
Yeah.
it boils down to that loss of control.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate loss of control.
Absolutely. As mediums or people who do shamanic journeys, I have never experienced somebody who's on the other side that's terrified. I did meet one person who seemed genuinely confused. And I'm not sure why. He'd been over there for a while and he was with his brother. So maybe that was just carryover from his personality here, and he just hasn't let that sort of persona go yet. But
Mm.
everybody else seems fine and or happy and relieved. And yeah, would you say that's been your experience also?
A little bit of both. And that part of
Hmm.
this is actually because in the shamanic training, and for the most part in the work that I do with folks, I don't tend to do shamanic healing in a I am the healer and I am healing you. It's much more in a collaborative. You're going to learn to journey with me. You're
Hmm.
going to get the tools to be working with your own guides and be your own healer. And I
Hmm.
am going to be there supporting and guiding you and maybe nudging you in a direction. And part of the reason that I like that way of operating is that it's very empowering. It's not a top-down thing of I'm not going to tell you what I just healed in you. You're going to see it, experience it, feel it on your own. That said, over the last year, part of what has been coming up has been some of my training a number of years ago has been more in that aspect of psychopomp work. So, working with guides to go to places where people have passed and making sure is there any healing or support that's needed to help them continue on fully. And so this was one piece that really came up partly because in my own investigation of some of my own patterns, my own lineage line, it became very clear this year that part of what I was carrying on behalf of someone in my family who, before I was born, their partner was murdered.
Oh.
And so worked with one of my mentors because I was, oof, this feels like a lot to step into, but worked with one of my mentors to do some work around that and make sure, okay, does this person have everything that they need?
Mm.
And what I encountered was a stuckness. And he was ready to cross over. And this might have just been like one part of who he is, one part of his consciousness, one part of
Mm-hmm.
his awareness. There may have been a lot else that had already passed and moved on and felt relief, but there was this one stuck place of the fear and confusion and questioning of, oh my gosh, was this my fault? Are other people hurting? Did I do harm? And so, one of these pieces of, okay, how do we actually bring support into those places where there have been a traumatic death? That has been something that has been opening up more and more over these last months and year or so. That door opened, and it's okay, you got to walk through it whether you want to or not to see if there's help that needs to happen here.
Can I just clarify, the
Yeah.
person who really needed that support, was it the one who was murdered or the
Yes.
partner?
Yeah,
Oh,
the one who
okay,
was
gotcha.
murdered.
Several years ago, I was in a group
Mm.
practicing together.
Yeah.
Two of the people in the group were a lot more experienced with crossing over of souls and that kind of thing. I was trying to learn from them. We would tune into a space. One person in the group had what felt like a very haunted basement and had video camera, and you would see like orbs, just like crowds were going through kind of thing.
Yeah.
When we tuned into that space, there were a lot of souls there. There was a portal through this
Yeah.
basement,
Yeah.
and there was a guy that we tuned into who was like this terrible leader. Imagine a group of like a family or a community hiding behind a dryer or something to stay like because they were threatened or intimidated to not cross
Yeah.
into the light. We had to call Jesus in
Mm.
to take the leader and help. I'm getting some big chills on that. It was very intense. There are souls that linger or maybe stuck in time loops. What does cycle pump mean?
That is the guiding of souls, helping people cross over. Some of my earlier training really has been in both that and space clearings. I was talking to someone just the other day and remarking on, oh yeah, wow, it would be so different if we were having people regularly doing space clearings in places where there's just a lot going on. I feel fortunate that one of the organizations that I'm involved in, the Foundation of the Sacred Stream, where I did a lot of my shamanic training, they do regular space clearings. And so people who are like you, healing professionals, and maybe you're having a feeling like, oh, my working space is there's some energy here that needs to be shifted, or maybe you're involved in a hospital. They'll often do both in-person and virtual space clearings on a pretty regular basis to support people in moving some of that energy, because things pop up from time to time and it's amazing what does get revealed. This really is one of those great places where you learn to trust your gut. I did a space clearing recently with a friend of a local community space that had just a lot of interpersonal tension and a lot of things going on. It was so wild that my experience, I was in this one office and there was just this real icky feeling of, oh my gosh, it's almost like being surveilled, like someone is watching. I spent a lot of time in there. My friend spent a lot of time at this one door. And we didn't know what was going on with the space, but we came back, we gave our notes post clearing to the person that we'd said we would do this before. And my friend brought up the door first and she said, oh yeah, somebody actually was so angry at one point they slammed that door and it broke the door frame. And then I said, this is going to sound really weird. I almost don't want to say anything, but I felt like I was being watched in that other room. And she revealed, we actually have wondered, did somebody from a previous iteration of this company put spyware on the computer that's in that room? We were just talking about that the other day. And these are those things that I think for so many of us who are wading into these waters of non-ordinary reality, part of the real ordeal is actually getting out of your own way and just trusting yourself that maybe it's worth speaking up and sharing that hunch or that image that just crossed your mind or that feeling that you had, because it might actually be something that is useful. And I think so many of us who are sensitive, intuitive people, we've been conditioned to do the opposite because it's risky. This is bringing up so many different connections as we're talking.
I agree. I just made a connection that I've never made. My husband and I bought the house that I'm in right now. I really loved the neighborhood and the idea of the neighborhood. The house was like, yeah, sure, kind of thing. I remember being in this house. It felt a lot smaller once it had furniture in it than it did when we purchased it. I didn't have a great feeling about the house. It always felt crowded. We had this really big fireplace in the living room, and a really sort of psychic friend of mine came over once because I was saying there's a feeling in the house, especially my husband used to travel a lot. And when he was gone, I would feel this heavy kind of looming energy. And she came over and she said, I get that it's a male energy connected to that fireplace. He knows that you don't like the fireplace because it's taking up a lot of the space in the living room, and he doesn't like that you don't like it. And every time my husband went away, I felt really uncomfortable in the house. I wasn't as great with boundaries as I had to learn to be, and it was really uncomfortable. We lived here for maybe 2 years, and we had a fire here. We had bought used appliances when we bought the house. The refrigerator basically sparked not exactly flames, but the house had to be taken down to the studs and really started over. And it never occurred to me until you were just talking that the fire cleared this space.
Oh, interesting.
I just thought, oh yeah, that guy hasn't come back
Yeah.
because it's a different house. But it never struck me like,
Yeah.
oh, because that is a way to clear,
Yeah,
is with
absolutely.
fire.
Absolutely.
I just never saw it as being useful in a spiritual way. I've had visitors that
Interesting.
I have not
Wow. Yeah,
appreciated their company,
certainly.
but it wasn't that guy. I have not missed him. I have a really spiritual friend who's a bit of a mentor to me, and she would not believe, I don't think, that the fire happened to be helpful. If somebody breaks a leg or something, and I was supposed to slow down, she'd be like, I don't think that's true. You broke your leg because you broke your leg. I'm trying to just learn her mindset because I appreciate how she thinks about things, but it's just so different. I'm trying to reflect on how is this sort of meant to support me. So she would think I was full of hooey. Interesting.
I like that, also holding both of those perspectives. Like,
Mm,
yeah, it's a fire because the fire happened, and also, wow, look, there was a silver lining.
yeah.
Something also came out of it that's maybe helpful. And I think th this is one of those places where it can be so challenging to make meaning out of things. And it's like, what if it's both? What if it's possible for
Mm,
both of the, as a Buddhist teacher, one of the things that often gets tangled up in people that I teach or work with is that idea of karma. And so often,
mm,
because we're mapping that sort of puritanical Western overlay onto it, a lot of the time there is this sense of the bad thing must be happening to me because I'm somehow morally failing, or I deserved it in some way. Or
gotcha.
the good thing might be happening because I did something good. There's
Mm,
this quote from Pema Chodron that I feel like I'm pulling out of my hat a lot. She says, pain is not a punishment, pleasure is not a reward. There feels to be something very helpful in holding both that knowing that the pain is not a punishment, the pleasure is not a reward, and also at the same time, the fact that there can be experiences that are here to teach us, that are here to nudge us in a direction that I know for myself, one of my more traumatic life experiences, which was, yeah, quite harrowing, also nudged me back on the path that I'm on now. I was in my 20s and I was going in a direction that was certainly not this life. I was
mm,
certainly not living the way that I'm living now. And
gotcha.
the trauma itself, no one should have had to go through that. It was not okay.
Yeah.
And also, I wouldn't take it back because it did jostle me right back on the path. And there is this sort of, yeah, can we actually
Mm.
hold a more nuanced view, which is certainly not what we're conditioned to do or not what we're taught.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing that up because I do tend to go into that sense of duality. And you're right, it's bigger than that. And I also believe in like the rebalancing of karma, which is how I come to look at it now instead of just karma. Like the rebalancing, maybe I didn't do something terrible in a past life or even in this life to warrant, let's say, a house fire. There are nudges that help you go in a certain direction. And I do believe in the rebalancing. And if we took the moral judgment off of it,
Yeah,
we wouldn't feel, wow, I must have really done some
right.
bad things that I'm being punished. I feel grateful that I don't feel that way about it because I would walk around feeling pretty negative and sour or
Absolutely.
terrible about myself as a human or
Right.
even a soul
Right.
that I must have done some really terrible things. I
Talk
had,
about a mindset that is great for
yeah,
disempowering people. Yeah.
yeah. I was like scammed by a psychic woman in my 20s. It was a huge life-changing event.
Wow.
I ended up in places and spaces that I would never have
Yeah.
chosen to be
Yeah.
normally. And I was very angry for a long time. I had no trust in myself at all. I thought I would be better off gone if I had any sense I would recreate that situation for myself again in this lifetime. I could not tolerate it. There was a lot of recovering, and the ability to trust myself and my own judgment was at the core of all of it. So to be able to reach a point, like you were saying earlier about trusting our intuition, is really trusting ourselves. Can I be a finely tuned machine enough where I can trust me with my own life? It took me decades to get to. And it's so precious to me. And I really value supporting other people to learn to trust themselves more because I know how it feels not to at all and have lots of evidence that I probably never should. And to have had to work through that and not as a punishment. It wasn't a punishment. I never would have had the life that I have. I can't imagine. And as deeply to my core as it is, or as it feels, without that, or even breast cancer, where I had a job I would have never given up. Not like I loved it so much. Went to school and I trained for a long time to get a license that I was going to use. I would have never delved into this, certainly not to the degree that I have. But now that I feel the joy that I feel about it and the fulfillment, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah, it was a lot to deal with at the time, but life is long. And if I needed to rebalance it, I'm glad I got it done. And I'm looking forward ahead to all the other cool stuff to do with this area of life that is infinite and wondrous and truly amazing. And, it's worth it. Doesn't mean it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for what you
Absolutely.
went through that kicked your ass.
We get our
It
ass
really
kicked.
did. Yeah.
It is part of the deal of being human also. This is not an easy place to sign on for.
I feel reminded, my father-in-law used to say about aging, like it's not for pansies, and neither is life incarnating. Yeah. It wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to be experienced and learn from. And also do your best to have the joy that you can with what you have.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we had this conversation. Really feeling connected to my heart. Thank you, Juliana.
Yeah, thank you, Noelle. I can really, this whole time I feel my grandmother right about here.
That's interesting. Normally, my other grandmother and my sister show up. When I sit down with the intention of doing a podcast episode, they always show up, which I so
Interesting.
appreciate.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have some in the background over there. Mama was close, and then your grandmother was closer than anybody. But I definitely feel presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like the being watched that you described earlier, but in a nice way.
Much nicer, much more pleasant.
Yeah, you feel I don't want to say the love, but the word teamwork is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel very moved, like our teams applauding us. I really did love this conversation with you. So even the reframe of the fire is nice. Not that I've been dwelling on it, but to even see it that way makes it seem even clearer that I'm destined to do what I'm here to do, and needing to get out of my head and out of my way to do it more and bigger, because I experienced all of these things for a reason. And I had an Akashic record reading a couple of years back, and she said the main theme is faith, and that I had a book to write, but if I didn't want to do it in this lifetime, that would be okay. And there's a part of me that's, oh, hell no. After all these experiences, this is the life. This is it. I am not signing up, not to be the pansy, but I'm not signing up for all of this stuff again.
You don't want another ass kicking?
Or 3 or 4.
Yeah.
No, thanks. I feel the credibility with myself to do certain things in this life. And I feel very inspired by that in a way that I've said about myself in this year. I am so sick of my own bullshit. This is the year. And this conversation is totally aligned with that. The moving forward, no matter what, bringing all of ourselves, all of our team, all of our ability to connect with like-minded people, that we're all on the same team and moving forward together. Thanks for spending this time with me on Mediumship Sparks. If this episode resonated with you, please like it, subscribe, rate, and certainly share it with somebody else who could benefit. If you're interested in any support I might be able to provide as you navigate your spiritual path, please feel free to check out my offerings at connectingwithnoelle.com and reach out at mediumshipsparkspodcast@gmail.com. Take good care of yourself, and I'll look forward to being with you again soon.